to see you.
So, so after move or just stay here?
So good morning, everyone. Looks like we have a problem here. I think maybe you. Oh, you had to share. Let them share screen. 1 second here. Okay, thank you. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Ullambana ceremony. We are going to be doing the incense praise to begin, followed by the Ullambana Sutra in English, and then once in Chinese, once in English, and then the mantra for repaying parents' kindness. And after that, Dharma Master Jingfo will share some Dharma reflections on Ullambana, and we'll finish with our dedication of merit. So 欢迎大家我们今天的节目是从炉香赞开始，然后念乌兰蓬经英文的，然后中文的，然后英文的，然后念父母报恩真言，然后最后我们就是我们最后我会进佛师会跟我们分享一点乌兰蓬的佛法，然后我们会上功德。今天也特别的，我们用一个新的翻译，乌兰蓬的翻译，是法师做的，所以这个不是可以说 official， 但是我想这个英文比那个以前的好很多。So today we have something special. Reverend Heng has translated the Ullambana ceremony so that it flows much more smoothly. So this is the first time we'll be reciting here in Berkeley. It's a provisional translation, but I think you'll find that the translation is a lot more smooth. If you have the recitation book and you want to follow, I believe it's on page 172, right? 172页吗？金佛师。172页对不对？
好 on the page.
Yeah, just 172. Ullambana ceremony. No, 187. Sorry, 187. 187页在我们的课诵本里面。如果你要跟着，但是那个英文翻译是不同的。Okay, so happy to have everyone join in. We can see people made offerings to the monastery, and we're happy to receive it. And they say this will not only help our parents of this life, but also parents in past lives. So we can imagine all our parents here with us, parents from the past lives were there with us, our ancestors, all of them together, we are wishing for their well-being. 所以这个法会不只是为了我们现在的父母可以得到快乐，是让我们以前的父母也是可以得到快乐。所以我们可以观想他们就跟着我们在一起，他们就在我们的心中，我们这样子念诵诚心，然后回向功德，希望他们可以得到快乐。好 ，OK， 阿弥陀佛，我们就可以开始。 Incense in the censer night is burning high on the Dharma and receive the fragrant from afar the Siva Dodo Buddha holiness sweetness replace those pictures clouds of our sincere intention does for thee. As all Buddhas right now show their perfect body, I Namo incense cloud geno apiyaibo Bodhisattva Aima Asattva Ainamo incense cloud geno apiyaibo Bodhisattva Aima Asattva Ainamo incense cloud geno apiyaibo Bodhisattva Aima Asattva. So we're on page 187 in the recitation book. I should also be able to see the English version on the chat box or on the screen. So please click that. We'll begin by reciting Namo Ullambana Hui Fo Pusa, which means homage to the Ullambana assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We'll recite that 3 times, and then we'll begin to recite the sutra in English. Then we'll recite it in Chinese, and then recite it in English. 所以我们现在先念南无盂兰盆会佛菩萨三声，然后念诵经文英文念诵一遍，中文一遍，英文一遍。好。
要跪的。
跪的，好呀，对，跪。Yeah, we can kneel. Namo Ullambana Hui Fo Pusa. Namo Ullambana Hui Fo Pusa. 11 way Pubusa. Sutra of the Buddha's teachings on Ullambana. Thus have I heard, once the Buddha lived at Shravasti, in the garden the benefactor of orphans and the childless elderly. Maudgalyāyana had just revealed the 6 spiritual powers, and wished to take across his father and mother, to repay their kindness for raising him. Just then, using his spiritual vision, he contemplated the world and saw that his deceased mother had been reborn among the hungry ghosts, having neither food nor drink. She had become a skeleton covered with skin. Maudgalyāyana, feeling deep pity and sadness, filled a bowl with food, and endeavored to give it to his mother. But after she got the bowl, she screened it with her left hand, and with her right hand made a fistful of food. Before the food entered her mouth, it turned into burning coals, and burned her mouth and tongue. Maudgalyāyana, crying aloud, weeping sorrowfully, ran to the Buddha to tell him what had happened. The Buddha said, "Your mother has created weighty offenses. Her habits are strongly rooted. You alone do not have enough strength to affect the situation. Although your filial cries move heaven and earth, the celestial and terrestrial spirits, the demons, the heterodox believers, Brahmins, and the 4 Deva kings also lack strength to help. It will take the all-inspiring spiritual power of the assembled Sangha of the terrain directions to set her free. I'm going to teach you a method now which can lead beings with troubles and worries to leave their misery behind." The Buddha told Maudgalyāyana, "The 15th day of the 7th month is the Paravarana day. For the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions, prepare an offering of clean basins full of flavorful foods and ripe fruits. Make offerings of incense, oil, lamps, candles, beds, and bedding, all of the finest quality, to the virtuous Sangha of the 10 directions who have gathered, and do so for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 generations past, as well as for fathers and mothers of the present who are in trouble. On that day, gather the Sangha of sages, whether they are in the mountains practicing Chan meditation, or realizing the 4 fruitions of the path, or walking beneath trees, or using the sovereign self-mastery of the 6 psychic powers to teach voice hearers and Pratyeka Buddhas, whether they are 10th stage bodhisattvas appearing as bhikshus, all of these sages alike in their single-minded focus, and complete with pure precepts and ocean-vast virtue, should gather in a great assembly to receive the Pravarana food. If you then make offerings to the Pravarana Sangha, your present father and mother, your parents of 7 generations past, as well as the 6 kinds of close relatives, will leave the 3 paths of suffering, gain liberation, and be clothed and fed. If your parents are still alive, they will enjoy wealth and blessings for 100 years. Parents of 7 generations past will be reborn in the heavens with sovereign self-mastery, experiencing celestial flowers and radiance. At that time, the Buddha instructed the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions to recite mantras and dedications for the sake of the donors' families. Then for parents of 7 generations, with minds as still as in Chan meditation, they may accept the food. When they receive the offerings of food, they first set it in front of the Buddha in the stupa. When the assembled Sangha has all gathered, they recite their mantras and make dedications. Only then can they eat the food. At that time, Bhikshu Maudgalyāyana and the assembly of great bodhisattvas were all extremely delighted, and the sound of Maudgalyāna's sorrowful cries ceased. Then Maudgalyāna's mother was set free from one eon of suffering as a hungry ghost. Maudgalyāna said to the Buddha, "This disciple's parents has received the power of the triple jewels, merit and virtue, and the all-inspiring spiritual strength of the assembled Sangha. In the future, if Buddha's disciples practice filiality by offering the Ullambana food basins, will they also be able to take across their present fathers and mothers, as well as those of 7 generations past?" The Buddha replied, "Excellent. I am happy you asked that question. I was just going to explain the principle. Good people, suppose bhikshus, bhikshunis, kings, crown princes, lofty ministers, officials, cabinet members, the 100 chiefs, and the tens of thousands of citizens wish to practice compassionate filial conduct for the sake of the parents who bore them, as well as for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, on the day of the Buddha's delight, the day of the Sangha's pravarana, they should place hundreds of flavors of foods in the Ullambana basins, and offer them to the pravarana Sangha of the 10 directions. They should vow that their present fathers and mothers' longevity will reach 100 years without illnesses, without sufferings, afflictions, or worries. They should also vow that 7 generations of fathers and mothers will leave the sufferings of the hungry ghosts, be born among humans and gods, and enjoy limitless blessings and happiness. The Buddha told the good men and good women, those disciples of the Buddha who cultivate filial practices, when making offerings in thought after thought, should constantly recall their present fathers and mothers, as well as the fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. For their sakes they should perform the offering of the Ullambana basins to the Buddha and the Sangha, and thus repay the loving kindness of the parents who raised and nourished them. At that time the Buddha Maudgalyāyana and the fourfold assembly of disciples hear what the Buddha said, practiced it with delight. So now we'll recite the sutra again in Chinese. 现在我们念诵《乌兰蓬经》，用中文。如是我闻，你是否在舍卫国之世经孤独言大目见莲师的流动，一度父母暴露不知恩济，一道眼观世世间。见之望目生而归宗，不见因是彼故连理目连悲哀，寂寞善法妄想其目目的波翻变一左手掌翻右手断法是为如垢。化真火炭，虽不得是不连大教被好提起，西海白佛，具真如此佛言如母罪根深结，
非如一人，理所奈何，如水小顺，震动天地，天生地震，邪魔外道，道是四天王生，亦不能奈何。当舍十方众生为生之力，乃得解脱。无尽大为如所救济之法力，一切难解理有故对障消除，佛告目连。十方众生一去也是无日生之之事，当为去世父母及现在父母而难众者，举凡百为无过机关本具享有地主瞻伏我地。今世甘美依着本宗供养十方大德众生，当知之日一切生中，或在三界禅定，或得四道果，或树下进行，或流动自在。教化声闻缘觉，或是地菩萨大人，全心必就在大众中解脱一心，受不和罗梵觉清净言，身中之道即得汪洋，其有供养，此等之子生者，现在父母即是父母，六种即是得出三途之故，因是解脱一时自然。若复有人父母现在则复了百年，若已忘记是父母，增添自在化身入天花光，受无量快乐。是佛知十方众生，见贤为之度家咒言，即是父母。心赞地必然诺受持咒咒本事，现安在佛的见众生咒愿经遍知受持。20目连必究极大大为大菩萨众皆大欢喜。二目连被地具身释然诸灭，世无量之目即于是日得脱一切恶鬼之故。20目连复拜佛言：弟子受生父母的门三宝功德之力，众生为生之力故。若未来世一切佛弟子行孝顺者，一因分子依然本就度现在父母，乃至即是父母，为歌而不佛言大善怀为我真一说。如今复问甚难自若有比丘尼国王代子王子大圣在小三公百官万民俗人心孝自珍，皆因为受生现在父母，过去即是父母，于今月是无日，佛万世日生之子日100位，因是安依然本宗。十方之子生机缘，便是现在父母，寿命100年，无病无一切苦恼之患，乃至即是父母。离恶鬼故得生天人中，福乐无极。佛告诸善男子善女人， 是佛弟子修小守着，应年年增长依父母，供养乃至其是父母，年年祭也是无人，常以孝顺施以受生父母，乃至其是父母，为作一览本是佛及身以报父母，赞扬慈爱之恩，若一切佛弟子，应当奉持是吧。二日目连必就是被弟子闻佛所说，欢喜奉行。
Do one more time in English. 还有一遍念诵英文的《盂兰盆经》。Thus have I heard. Thus have I. Okay, sorry. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha lived at Shravasti, in the garden, the benefactor of orphans and the childless elderly. Maudgalyāyana had just revealed the 6 spiritual powers, and wished to take across his father and mother, to repay their kindness for raising him. Just then, using his spiritual vision, he contemplated the world and saw that his deceased mother, having been reborn among the hungry ghosts, having neither food nor drink, she had become a skeleton covered with skin. Maudgalyāyana, feeling deep pity and sadness, filled a bowl with food, and endeavored to give it to his mother. But after she got the bowl, she screened it with her left hand, and with her right hand made a fistful of food. Before the food entered her mouth, it turned into burning coals and burned her mouth and tongue. Maudgalyāyana, crying aloud and weeping sorrowfully, ran to the Buddha to tell him what had happened. The Buddha said, "Your mother has created weighty offenses. Her habits are strongly rooted. You alone do not have enough strength to affect this situation. Although your filial cries move heaven and earth, the celestial and terrestrial spirits, the demons, the heterodox believers, Brahmins, and the 4 Deva kings also lack strength to help. It will take the awe-inspiring spiritual power of the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions to set her free. I'm going to teach you a method now, which can lead beings with troubles and worries to leave their misery behind." The Buddha told Maudgalyāyana, "The 15th day of the 7th month is the Pravarana day for the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions. Prepare an offering of clean basins full of flavorful foods and ripe fruits. Make offerings of incense, oil, lamps, candles, beds, and bedding, all of the finest quality, to the virtuous Sangha of the 10 directions who have gathered, and do so for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 generations past, as well as for fathers and mothers of the present who are in trouble. On that day, gather the Sangha of sages, whether they are in the mountains practicing chant meditation, or realizing the 4 fruitions of the path, or walking beneath trees, or using the sovereign self-mastery of the 6 psychic powers to teach voice hearers and Pratyeka Buddhas, whether they are 10th stage bodhisattvas appearing as bhikshus, all these sages alike in their single-minded focus, and complete with pure precepts and ocean-vast virtue, should gather in a great assembly to receive the Pravarana food. If you then make offerings to the Pravarana Sangha, your present father and mother, your parents of 7 generations past,
as well as the 6 kinds of close relatives, and leave the 3 paths of suffering, gain liberation and be clothed and fed. If your parents are still alive, they will enjoy wealth and blessings for 100 years. Parents of 7 generations past will be born in the heavens, with sovereign self-mastery, experiencing celestial flowers and radiance. At that time the Buddha instructed the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions to recite mantras and dedications for the sake of the donors' families. Then for parents of 7 generations, with minds as still as in Chan meditation, they may accept the food. When they receive the offerings of food, they first set it in front of the Buddha in the stupa. When the assembled Sangha has all gathered, they recite their mantras and make dedications. Only then can they eat the food. At that time, Bhikshu Maudgalyāyana and the assembly of great bodhisattvas were all extremely delighted, and the sound of Maudgalyāna's sorrowful cry ceased. Then Maudgalyāna's mother was set free from 1 eon of suffering as a hungry ghost. Maudgalyāyana said to the Buddha, "This disciple's parents has received the power of the triple jewels merit and virtue, and the all-inspiring spiritual strength of the assembled Sangha. In the future, if Buddha's disciples practice filiality by offering the Ullambana food basins, will they also be able to take across their present fathers and mothers, as well as those of 7 generations past?" The Buddha replied, "Excellent. I am happy you asked that question. I was just going to explain the principle. Good people, supposed bhikshus, bhikshunis, kings, crown princes, lofty ministers, officials, cabinet members, the 100 chiefs, and the tens of thousands of citizens, wish to practice compassion and filial conduct for the sake of the parents who bore them, as well as for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, on the day of the Buddha's delight, the day of the Sangha's pravarana, they should place hundreds of flavors of foods in the Ullambana basins, and offer them to the pravarana Sangha of the 10 directions. They should vow that their present fathers and mothers' longevity will reach 100 years without illnesses, without sufferings, afflictions, or worries. They should also vow that 7 generations of fathers and mothers will leave the sufferings of the hungry ghosts, be born among humans and gods, and enjoy limitless blessings and happiness. The Buddha told the good men and good women, those disciples of the Buddha who cultivate filial practices, when making offerings in thought after thought, should constantly recall their present fathers and mothers, as well as the fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. For their sakes they should perform the offering of the Ullambana basins to the Buddha and the Sangha, and thus repay the loving kindness of the parents who raised and nourished them. At that time the Bhikshu Maudgalyāyana and the fourfold assembly of disciples, hearing what the Buddha said, practiced it with delight. And know the Sutra of the Buddha's teachings on Ullambana. Now do the mantra for repaying parents' kindness. This mantra is on page 194 in the recitation book. It's also in the text file on the chat box. The mantra is Namo Milido Dopoye Swaha. So we will recite this mantra and then circumambulate reciting the mantra. Namo Milido Dopoye So. Namo Milido Dopoye So. Namo Milido Dopoye
Namo Miri Do Do Boye So. 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 Namo Miri Do Do Boye
ye zo, namo mi ri do do bo 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 ye zo, namo mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye dô nam mô mi li đô đô bô ye so.
Okay, we'll invite Dharma Master Jingfo to share some reflections on Ulambana. 我们请金佛法师来跟大家结法缘，讲乌兰邦法会的意义。好
，OK，诸佛菩萨、仙公上人以及在座的法师，还有线上的法师，还有我们在座的这个居士，还有我们线上的佛友，我们大家阿弥陀佛。
So all Buddhas and Bodhisattva, Venerable Master, all Dharma Masters present and Dharma Masters online, all lay people here present and everyone online. We're all here together. Amitofo.
Yeah. 我们伯克利今天来做这个算盂兰盆节的法会我们这个是一个算非常孝顺父母或者是来对于孝顺方面，我们所要表现的一个方式，这个是非常重要，因为我们学佛就是要来孝顺父母，所以这个是最重要的。
So today that everyone can come together and participate in this ceremony is very important. It's a filial action, really repaying our parents' kindness. As Buddhist disciples, filiality is an important virtue.
所以我们做人的根本就是要能够来学佛，那学佛最重要就是要来孝顺父母，一直报四重恩，一直父母恩师长恩国家恩这些众生恩这个四恩我们都必须要来把它做好，这个是我们算我们学佛这一生，我们就没有白费我们的这个学佛的精神。
So coming to this world as a human being, we need to focus on, some basic human principles. And we can learn this from the Dharma, from Buddhism. And in Buddhism, it emphasizes filiality, repairing our parents' kindness. But not just our parents' kindness. It's sometimes said that we want to repay the 4 kinds of kindness. The kindness of our parents, the kindness of our teachers and elders, the kindness of the country or society, and the kindness of all living beings. And so this heart of filiality is really at the root of how to be a person, how to cultivate the way.
所以像刚才我们在这个诵念这个盂兰盆经的故事里面，我们就知道是目犍连他的修行得到6通以后，他就 去到地狱里面去看他的父母亲，然后发觉他妈妈是在变成了恶鬼，在这个河边，然后他赶快拿着一个饭要给他吃，但是这个没有办法吃。
So we just read the sutra, which describes Venerable Maudgalyāyana when he, you could say, realized the 6 spiritual powers. And so he had the celestial vision to be able to see in the heavens and the hells. And he went looking for his parents, and he found his mother down in the hells as a hungry ghost next to a river where she was suffering. And so, wishing to relieve her suffering, he brought a bowl of food to her.
所以没有办法吃，他就非常伤心，然后去问佛，佛就跟他说啊，你就就是所有你要自己的一些法去请教什么法力啊，这个都没有办法动，就是只有来用我们僧团的力量啊，这个力量，那才可以给他能够受用吃到这个这个钵饭，而且不只是这样子，他钵饭以后啊，他那一天啊，他还可以升到天上去，解除这个结束的这个恶鬼命运。
So when Venerable Maudgalyāyana gave the food to his mother tried to eat the food, but she couldn't. It ended up burning her throat. And so Venerable Maudgalyāyana saw this and was extremely sad and went to the Buddha to ask for help. The Buddha said to Venerable Maudgalyāyana, your own spiritual strength is not sufficient to save your mom. If you go and ask others for support, wherever you go, their spiritual strength also will not be enough. Only the spiritual strength of the assembled Sangha as a spiritual community of the 10 directions can be of support for your mother.
所以这个目犍连终于得到了，所以他妈妈也可以吃到，然后又可以升天，不只是他这一代的父母，然后经典上也讲7世父母都可以也得到利益的，这个是非常非常好的。
So after they made the offering, Maudgalyāyana's mother didn't just have food to eat. She actually was able to escape the suffering in the hells, reborn in the heavens, and left behind 1 eon of suffering in the hells. And so this practice also didn't just benefit her, but benefited 7 generations of parents in the past, or 7 sets of parents in the past.
所以这个是非常好的一个算能够来这样子做，来给我们的父母受益，所以这样子传下来。那像在其他的我们民间的宗教里面，也可以说今天就是7月15是中元节。中元节的意思，他除了要祭拜祖先父母以外，他还要有意思说要像忏悔这一些的来做，所以这个也是表达一个传统敬父母师长的这个表现。
So this day is an important day for us to cultivate and to dedicate the merit to our parents and 7 generations of parents in the past. And that way they can receive benefit. Now, this day isn't just a day in the Buddhist calendar, but rather it also is a special day within the Chinese culture called, I don't know, 英文怎么翻啊? So
中元节.
中元节, maybe ancestral day? Day for your ancestors. I'm just kind of doing a rough translation. And this day you go not only to pay your respects to your parents and ancestors, but you also reflect on your own life and repent or admit to any mistakes we've made and make amends, improve. So this is a very important practice on how we can repay our parents' kindness.
还有我们的一般俗俗讲，7月15号啊是一个鬼节，这个就是一些民间的这个传说，15号就鬼就开始出来了，然后到开鬼门关，然后8月15就是关鬼门关，这个是一个事实上的这个他们所了解的，这个是我想这个是世俗上间的一种说法。最重要也是要能够你要小心，你这个行为，你的各方面的说话，你不要乱说，你不要乱做，不然的话，鬼会找上你。所以这个也是给大家一些警惕。
So in Chinese culture, there's a belief that on the 15th of the 7th lunar month, this is the day when the door of the ghost realm opens up into the human realm. So the ghosts come out, and that door closes on the 15th of the 8th lunar month. So this is you could say a cultural belief, something that gets passed down by tradition. And so it's an interesting reflection that you can think that there's ghosts that are out and about, and so we want to be especially careful in our speech, in our actions, and not to harm other people, and to treat the people around us with kindness.
好，我想我们今天就跟大家分享到这里，因为我们时间也差不多，我们要做回向。
Okay, so we'll just maybe share this much, and then we'll do our dedication of merit, and then we'll have our 8 precept ceremony at 8 a.m. So 我们现在来回向功德，然后我们等一下8点钟会有八关斋戒。
Okay.
So now I think it's a good time to just imagine your parents. Maybe you can imagine their faces. You can imagine all your ancestors, maybe all the parents of your past lives, and just expand our hearts to as many beings as possible as we do this dedication of merit. 所以现在你想大家可以观想，就是父母啊，他们的面孔，或者我们的什么祖先啊，期待父母啊，就是把我们的心量扩大，希望这个功德大家的诚心的供养，跟来一起参加法会，可以来帮助他们。好。
Every living beings, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all no sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise.
Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, so that concludes our Ulambana. Hope you can join us for our 8 precept transmission starting at 8 a.m., followed by our Amitabha session.
7 days.
Yeah, 7 days. And we also have our Great Compassion Mantra dedication of merit tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. 所以我们现在传八关斋戒8点钟开始，然后念佛，然后我们明天也有一个大悲咒回向功德法会，早上6点半开始。然后我们这是7天的阿弥陀期，所以欢迎大家参加。如果你还没立牌位，我想你在的网站 berkeleymonster.org 去立牌位，我们未来可以，我们等一下可以把你放上去。So if you haven't put in your memorial plaque yet, please do so. That way we can make sure we post them. You can find it on our berkeleymonastery.org website. You'll see a place to click where you can set up plaques. Okay. Wish everyone a good rest of the day. Amitabha.
Amitabha.